A while back, I created a video showing all of the things you could get from Amazon on Black Friday that would make a complete ham station. And that motivated me to go out and get all of that stuff because I actually, got the gear acquisition syndrome myself too. And since then, I have been making all kinds of videos on using all of the different things in that deals list to verify that they work. We call it dog fooding in the industry, where you eat your own dog food to see if it tastes good. In this video though, I've got kind of a problem because I found the first situation where I might have led you guys astray. The Xiegu G106 doesn't have an SWR meter of any kind built in. There is zero indication of what's going to happen with your radio and your antenna if your system is too far mismatched. It'll just happily grind itself into the ground for you. Now, the ARRL laboratory did do some tests on this radio, and they found that the radio is very comfortable up to about a 3-to-1 SWR mismatch, meaning you can still use this radio. I don't recommend it, but you can still use this radio with a 3-to-1 mismatch and not destroy it. And that's because the final transistors that Xiegu built into the G106 are actually rated for like 40 watts of RF, and they've been tamed down to around 5 watts. Which means that sometime in the future, you could probably get in and hotwire this thing to get some more power out of it if you provide the right amount of cooling to go along with it. If you haven't seen those videos, I will leave them linked in the description down below. Catching up to where we are today might give you a little bit more context, might help some things become more understandable. But today, we're going to go over the antenna, the Radioddity HF-009, and we're going to get it on the G106, and we're going to figure out how to solve this problem together. And it means more gear, which might be a good thing, or it might be a bad thing, depending on your own personal perspective. Let's get that antenna set up. So the one cool thing about the HF-009 is it comes in this really nice case, and if I just had it flipped over on the backside, you might think I was going to show you how to play the clarinet today. But instead, we're going to get inside and take a look. And the reason, that sounded awful scratchy. Oh geez, yuck. There's a screw head sticking up through the picnic table. That sucks. The reason why I picked this antenna for this project is because it is fully tunable on a variety of bands. I think it goes off the top of my head from 6 meters through 60 meters, which is a pretty big range. But it also comes with the radials that you need, it comes with the coax that you need, it comes with a coax adapter to get you connected to your radio, and it even comes with the ground spike to mount it in the ground. One really interesting thing about this ground spike is that it presents a 3/8-24 stud instead of your typical ground spike configuration that prevents a 3/8-24 socket. And so I have a previous video out as well about adapting this, because you can take this apart, but it is really more difficult than it's worth compared to the price of the adapter. Showing you how to use this with your regular, actually showing you how to use all of this with your regular 3/8-24 socket adapters. So I have a nice rubber mallet here, and I'm going to use that to pound this in. If you don't have a rubber mallet, then use something to go between the metal of the hammer and the metal of the stud so that you don't hurt anything. Good enough. And now for the ground radials. If you have a 3D printer, it might be nice to get these on their own individual winders, because they do get tangled up pretty easily if it's just plain wire laying here. So I'm going to get these all separated out and then connected up. There is one, and there's only 3, so it won't be too hard. I just pull these straight out as far as they go, and that makes my radial field. Radials go pretty long, so this one goes out nice and straight, and this one goes out nice and straight, but this one here runs into the fence. So it goes up to the fence, and then it goes sideways along the fence, and that's gonna have to do. And for setting up the antenna, the 2 poles go at the bottom, then the 3rd pole with the coil goes at the top, with the lump for the coil being the highest part of it. It only goes together one way once you get the other 2 in. And then you put the whip on and fully extend the whip. But I want to show you something before I do that. I found this out accidentally before, and I was unscrewing this thing, and it started unscrewing right there. Well, you know me, I like to explore stuff, so unscrew it I did. So check that out. This part here is your electrical connection from your coax to your antenna. And then inside, I don't know how the camera's going to pick it up, but inside there's some copper wound in a cylindrical coil, spiral type deal. And as you slide the coil up and down, using the little slide deal here, it moves up and down and touches a different part of that coil. And that coil is how you get your coarse tuning to get you really close in spec. And then you start shrinking down the whip to do some even more fine tuning if you need to. We've got the antenna up, we've got the coax connected, we've got all the radials connected. We don't have it in tune, and we don't have it connected to the radio. I haven't even taken the radio out of the bag yet at this point. I thought for a while the reason why this video has been delayed in the series is because I had to put some time into thinking about what the right solution to this was. I could show you how to tune this thing by ear, but even if I showed you how to do it, your ears and my ears are two different types of ears, and I may have more experience than you do, you may have more experience than I do. You can get it extremely close, but you still can't tell whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So do I recommend getting a auto tuner that has an SWR meter in it that will tell you, and then you can touch it up if you wanted to? Do I recommend a really expensive Rig Expert? Auto tuner for this radio is going to be about $100. Rig Expert, I don't even know, but I'm assuming over $200. Or we could do something that would help you further your way along in the hobby and get you a NanoVNA. You can get NanoVNAs in a couple of different sizes. Let me show you. I've got a stack here of 3 different kinds of NanoVNAs. The first one is in a little case. I did a video on this a while back that shows all the stuff that's in here. And this case inside actually has a NanoVNA and a tiny SA. And then I've got these mesh bags that have all of the accessories that you need, your open short load standards for calibration, an adapter to go from SO239 to SMA to PL259, so I can connect it up to the device and see it, the charging cables, everything you need, all fits inside this nice little case. What I would recommend, if you do this right, you're only going to buy one of these things once, so you might as well get a bigger screen and a little bit nicer feature set. So I'll show you some of the other ones that are out there as well. So I've got these 2 right here, and I always try to have them in different cases so I can tell at a glance, this is my original NanoVNA, this is this one, and this is a different one. I'll show you inside which one they are. And I just know that the green one's my newest one, and that's the one that I go to, and that's the one we're going to use today. I get these 3D printed protective cases over on Etsy from Add Subtract Customs. I'll leave a link down below for you. But these are really slick. This one is the NanoVNA, and I want to say this is the H4. Yep, didn't want to get that wrong for you. You pull that out, there's a little false bottom that's got all of your accessories, your open short load, and your adapters. I've got an adapter for PL259 to SMA and for SO239 to BNC. I don't even know why that one's in there. That one's more useful than that one, but maybe I was doing something when I put this kit together. But you can put in whatever adapters you want. There's room for extra stuff in there like that. And that holds in by magnet, that holds in by shape, and then clip it right shut and you're ready to go. This one here, which one is this one by official name? The FV2. So it's got a bigger screen on it, and we have the same setup in the case where you've got your, they just fell out because I've got it at an angle for you. Your open short and load down here in the bottom of the case, the adapter that I need, the coax, an SMA wrench, and a stylus. So let's get this thing calibrated and get the antenna brought into tune on the 20 meter band. All right, I got this shown as good as I can on camera. The camera likes to focus on my reflection on the screen instead of the screen itself. I'll walk through what to do in here. I will agree that the screen isn't the best to see outdoors in person, but it is viewable and I can see what's going on, and you'll be able to tell because I'm getting through here. First thing I want to do is I want to set my stimulus, and I'm going to do a center frequency of 14.230, which is about the middle of what I care about for the 20 meter band. I hit the M for megahertz, and then I'm going to do a span. I'm going to do a span of 1 megahertz, which will get me a little bit below the band and a little bit above the band. Where do we go? We go 14.729 on the bottom and 14.729 on the top, which is way larger than the entire band. You can shrink that down a little bit, but you want to make sure that it's as narrow as you can get it, because this thing only has 101 data points, I believe. Maybe this one's got more because it's a better one. Sweep points. Oh, I can put in the amount of sweep points. More sweep points, it's going to take longer to sweep. We're just going to go with the 101. Hit OK. So now we've got 101 sweep points, and I've narrowed it down to where I want in the band. Now I can do my calibration. Oh, there's a brightness setting, 100% brightness. Doesn't seem like it changed much. So let's do cal for calibration. We're gonna hit calibrate for calibrate, and then I want to take my open standard and plug it into port 1 at the top here. And then I'm gonna do open. And it's gonna do a bunch of calibrations and testing and so on, and figure out that that's what it would look like if there was nothing attached. Then I'm going to take my short, and if you look, the short has a little pin in it, and that's shorted center pin to shield, and I'm going to run the calibration on the short. That is now done. I like this model because it beeps and everything too. let me know that it's done. The other one has a little blue line that goes across the top that tells you when it's done. And now it wants to load. This is a 50 ohm dummy load. It doesn't have a whole lot of power handling capabilities, but this thing doesn't put out a lot of power, so that's okay. We're just looking at it as a reference standard. Load, done. Okay, now we hit done. And what I want to do is I want to save it. I've already done this once before. You might be able to see that save 0 up there, 13 megs and 15 megs. I've tightened up the span a little bit. So when I hit save, it's done. And so the next time I come out in the field and I want to do this, I don't need to run through that calibration anymore. I can go back and I can hit recall save, and then I can recall, and I can recall this 13 to 14 megahertz calibration standard. And we're good to go. So I'm going to put this away, and I'm going to get the coax attached to it, this being the dummy load. I'm not putting the NanoVNA away. That wouldn't make much sense, would it? Okay, so now I've got the antenna attached to the antenna analyzer, the vector network analyzer, and it's telling me that my SWR is 23 to 1 SWR, which is not really good. So what I need to do is I need to go over and move the slider on the antenna and get it somewhere in the range of the SWR. When you are close to the antenna, you are now affecting the antenna. You're in what we call the near field. And so what we're going to need to do is adjust it higher to compensate for your physical presence than 1 to 1 SWR. And then as you back away, you can take a good look at it and you can get it to as close to 1 to 1 SWR as you want. Anything below 1.5 to 1, aces, you're good to go with this radio. All right, so as I come over here closer to the antenna, I'm gonna take this slider on the bottom and I'm looking. Yeah, we already went from 22 back at the table to, see it says 20.9 right now, and if I touch it, it goes down to 6 to 1 SWR. So it's already better just because I'm here touching it, giving it that love. All right, so the owner's manual tells me to go all the way up to about 1 chunk from the bottom. And that shows me, that's already pretty good. 1.29, just reading the book, I'm at 1.29. So it's come away from the antenna. I'm still pretty good. Let's see if you guys can see that at all. How about the sky reflection? Nope, too much sunlight here. Take my word for it. It says 1.13 to 1. I'm good to go. Honestly, I would consider that beginner's luck, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't show you how to do this a little bit better. So I'm going to detune it by going down a little bit. And now we're at 3.32 to 1 SWR. This thing is really touchy on the slider. So little tiny movements on the slider make big changes to your SWR. I'm going to move it up a little bit. 2 clicks is 1.19 again. That's really close to where I was. And if I come back out of the near field, 1.09 to 1 SWR. But let's say that I was really close. I'm going to go up 2 clicks. And that shows me 2.33 here in the near field. And then when I come back over here, it says 2.6. You can see that we're right here on marker number 1, which is 14.339, which is out of the band. So I'm going to press my up and down arrows here to get me closer to where I'm going to be operating. 14.209 is good at 2.83. Yeah, and it's viewable in person. So it's 5 to 1 SWR up here, it's 2.9 here, and then over here at the far end it's 1 point something. Let's go make a little tiny adjustment. What this is telling me, you can see that the gradual curve of the dip is down over here somewhere, which is higher in the band, which means the antenna is too short. So I need to make it longer. And on this antenna, making it longer means going down a bit. So I'm going to go down, which means more coil is attached to the whip. I went down 2, and we're at 1.58 to 1 SWR. And now you can see that the dip is actually over here. Maybe you can't see it, but I can see it. So now my antenna is too long, so I need to move it 1 click in the opposite direction. So it's too long, so I need to make it shorter. So 1 click up. And 1.26 to 1 at 14.209. Again, good enough. So now I'm going to get the radio plugged in and show you what it looks like on the radio with that fabulous power meter and SWR meter that doesn't exist. Radio time. This is the bag that we spec'd out for it. I'm going to need the radio and the battery. So there is the fabulous G106. There is the Talon cell battery that we spec'd out. And then the power cable that we made up in a previous video using the included power cable from Xiegu, some lever nuts. These things are fantastic for just quickly getting some cables together. And the reason why we use lever nuts is because this was cheaper than getting a soldering iron. And then this plugs into the battery. So radio side and battery side. Turn the battery on. I got 3 lights worth of charge in the battery. And then in here, that came with the antenna, is the one that I need to connect to the radio. All right, so we're on 20 meters upper sideband, and you can hear some signals really good. If you were going to try and tune it by ear, getting down to the FT8 frequency is going to be really good. You can see your power meter down here on your band scope if you've got that turned on, and my signal strength meter says that it's S7. So I'm going to turn this up to 14. There's always somebody on the Maritime Mobile Net, and they're happy to talk to you. I need my microphone too. So I'm going to go up to 14,300 and see if they're there while I get my microphone out. And I am not hearing anybody there, so we'll have to find somebody. Oh, net. I don't know what net's on 14,290.
Nobody wants to give it up.
Right, that's 14,305, and I could see them on the scope, so I just turned right to where they were.
It's going to get worse. Oh, I know. And they get up earlier. Most of them are in Florida, so they're an hour earlier better. So they get the frequency before we get up and get going, you know. We come out here about 5 o'clock and start, but they start at 3 and 4 in the morning, they said.
I can only hear one half of that conversation.
Yeah, you're pushing 5-8 here in
Colorado, and I'm in Arizona. Kilo Mike 9 Golf. That was a Zanzibar call. I don't have a Z in my call sign. Kilo Mike 9 Golf. Kilo Mike 9 Golf. That's me. That's me, Kilo Mike 9 Golf. Copy the 3x3 in Colorado. I'll give you 5-9 in Arizona. 5-9 Arizona. Thank you very much, 73. All right, she works. So I was kind of surprised that the G106 didn't have a built-in SWR meter, but there are lots and lots of ways to skin this cat. Besides the NanoVNA that I used and recommended in this video, what would be a way that you would solve this problem and share with a newer ham who's trying to figure this out? Leave a comment down below, let me know. And if you're looking to get the information on the Black Friday deals radio station that I spec'd out or the NanoVNA that I showed you in this video, then there will be links in the description down below for you. Otherwise, there's a video right over here I think you'll enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you over there. My NanoVNA just fell down. It only moved like 4 inches, and it's in the protective case, so it's all good.